Well, hello, everyone. I'm Tom Roberts, the Director of Vendor Programs, along with Haley Klein, Communications and Marketing Director for the PS&I Global Alliance. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us today with our global vendor partner, Williams AV, on the topic of best practices for in-person, virtual, and hybrid interpretation, especially when preparing for multilingual events. PS&I is an alliance of 108 service-providing companies in 61 countries around the world, speaking more than 30 different languages. You can't imagine what challenges that presents at some times. We're very proud to have Williams AV supporting us in helping to meet those challenges. Everyone will be in the listen-only mode during the webinar. The webinar is being recorded and a copy will be made available to you. We do encourage you to participate. Use the question box to the right of the screen. We'll get to as many questions as time allows. Now, let me introduce Tony Braun, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Williams AV, and he will introduce the rest of his team. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate the introduction. And as always, thanks to PS&I for allowing us to host some of these educational sessions. You've seen us deliver a number of these sessions over the years and appreciate the participation. So as Tom said, I have the good fortune of leading the sales and marketing team here at Williams AV. If you're not familiar with our organization, many of you know us as a global leader in assistive listening with traditional technologies such as FM, infrared, hearing loops, but also some of the newer technology that's used in the assistive listening space for audio streaming over Wi-Fi, digital communications, and more. A quick shout out to all of those who are authorized resellers for Williams out there. We are coming off 3 years of record performance that allows us to reinvest in new products and broaden our team for a more direct connection to all of you. So thanks for the support for all of you who are already involved with Williams. While the focus in years past has always been assistive listening, what many don't know is that one of our fastest growing segments is the use of our gear to support multilingual events. And we, on a regular basis, get phone calls into our offices, into my team saying, how do we use the gear for that? How do we set up and think through and successfully plan for a multilingual event? So we thought that would be an appropriate topic for today. And instead of us telling our story about how we think the gear could be used, we chose to invite two of our longtime partners and two experts in the field of multilingual events, whether those are live events, whether they're hybrid or they're completely virtual. So it's my pleasure to introduce these two gentlemen, Carlos Solis and Marcos Anaranda. I'm going to give a brief introduction and give each of them an opportunity to speak for a minute or two about their organizations and the expertise that they have, so you understand what they bring to the session today. And then we've prepared a list of questions that I'm going to ask of both Carlos and Marcos that are the things we hear most often from AV integrators who are trying to plan for a successful event. So I'll ask those questions and give our experts a chance to weigh in and educate us all on the best way to implement technology for these events. So I'll start with Carlos. There's some words on the screen here, but Carlos is the co-founder and a longtime customer at Universe Language Solutions. He's a technology expert. And Carlos, welcome to the webinar. Can you tell us a little bit more about Universe Language Solutions?
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for inviting me representing Universe. Basically, our company is it's a provider of language interpretation for conferences, and this is something that we have decided to do. I don't know, maybe about 12 years ago. In the past, we used to provide all the services related to languages, including written translation, manuals, and all the different services, sending interpreters to hospitals and court and stuff like that. But at some point, one of the services that we used to provide, among others, was simultaneous interpretation. And then we decided to stay there and just specialize because we realized that we were actually getting very comfortable and we were doing a good job with the simultaneous interpretation. So we decided to exclusively offer simultaneous interpretation, so the conference interpretation. That is, and then of course all the different technologies that we have been through and we have used. Mainly Williams, and without Williams, I don't think it would have been the same success. It's great. It's remarkable what you guys have done with the equipment. So it's great, and we use it every, I don't want to say every day, but almost every day that when we have conferences, and we also represent Williams as sellers as well.
Right. Thank you for the background. Carlos is based here in the U.S. and a little shameless plug here. Carlos is actually using our Digi-Wave equipment. So the audio you're hearing from Carlos today is actually through our digital Digi-Wave equipment.
And it will be a little bit of show and tell as well.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm going to switch over now to Marcos. Marcos is based in Spain and is the CEO and founder of TRIDIOM. I'll let Marcos talk a little bit about his organization, but a special thanks to Marcos for joining us on a national holiday and from his home on what was supposed to be a day off to help educate the rest of us. So Marcos, welcome, and tell us a little bit about TRIDIOM. I think we're not getting your audio, Marcos. Might be on mute.
Now you're getting me? Yes.
Now we have
now
you.
you're getting. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tony, and thank you for having me on this special event. I'm delighted to be able to talk about the integration of your technology into the services that we offer our clients. So TRIDIOM, my company, is a traditional language service provider. We started back in 1999, so we are almost 25 years in the business, and we offered simultaneous interpreting services from the very beginning, but it was very, very difficult to sell because we didn't have the equipment, so we had to rent all the equipment, the interpreting consoles, the interpreting receivers. So about 12 years ago, more or less the same time as Carlos said, we decided to start our own, to have our own equipment, and we looked for a provider, and we came across Williams AV, and since then we've been using on a daily basis. We've been using Williams AV equipment, Digi-Wave mainly, to provide interpreting services. We also use Williams AV interpreter consoles, the IC2, to provide those services either on location, so in-person events on site, or from our interpreting hub that we have in Madrid. We have an interpreting hub with 12 ISO compliant interpreting booths in the center of Madrid, and interpreters come there to provide interpreting services to our clients remotely, because we are one of the pioneers in remote simultaneous interpreting. I'm a member of the Spanish Standards Association, and I represent Spain in the ISO committees regarding interpreting technology. And this way I can also have some influence in the decisions that are being taken internationally on the future of simultaneous interpreting. Beautiful. So that's a bit what we do.
Beautiful. Thank you for the background. Helps us understand the depth of experience that you both have. So much appreciated. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so we can just have a more intimate conversation here, I guess. So I'm going to jump in to some of the questions that we prepared from our clients as to things they would like to learn from experts in the field. So the first one, kind of starting with live events here, is when a client reaches out and contracts with your teams to provide services for a live event, what questions do you ask of them to really understand the scope of the services and start building a plan for a successful event? So Carlos, if I can have you take that one first, then we'll come back to Marcos to add on to that.
Sure. One of the questions is actually making sure that they know what we need and what type of collaboration we're going to use with the local provider of audiovisual. Most of the times, clients are already very savvy, very comfortable with what they need. Fortunately, of course, it was not the same in the past, but nowadays it's very common that they already know what they need, they know what they want. But every now and then, we need to guide them and tell them, look, this is something that you might consider. The placement of the booth, the use of interpreters, because of course, a lot of times, most of the times, we offer all the services, including interpreters, including the simultaneous interpreters. So we make sure that we, of course, not necessarily tell them or ask them the question, but we use the best interpreters for the job, because it's the whole package. It's so important to have not only an interpreter that has the proper technique, the experience, the knowledge of the terminology that is going to be used, but also an interpreter that is flexible, that is willing to adapt. Sometimes there are changes, sometimes the client themselves, they don't know about something, and there are a lot of last minute changes, and of course you don't want somebody that is going to cause damage to your event or to your services. You want somebody that is going to help you, of course. And then things like where the interpretation receivers are going to be placed or distributed. The distribution of receivers is a big one. Sometimes, a lot of times, clients really overlook that part, and they don't think it's a big deal. And then until they lose receivers, until the people don't know what to do, they don't know that they need to bring them back from their hotel room, or they sometimes they think it's a goodie, it's a souvenir that they take home at the end, and then of course, trying to replace the value of those receivers is a big, so anyway, it's a big challenge. So it's important for them to know not only the transmission, the interpretation, the flow, the lighting, the screens that are big enough for the interpreters to see the screens from the booth, the angle of the booth. A lot of times they don't really know, and they tell us, okay, here's the blueprint, this is the diagram, and the booth is going to be here. And the interpreters, in order to interpret, they will have to be like this. They're like looking at the stage like for 6 or 8 hours. So those things are really important when it comes to the simultaneous interpretation services.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that again, you have interpreters who, as with any live event, be able to adjust to the flow, and the curveballs that always come your way as part of any live event be important. So Marcos, I'll bounce it over to you. Anything you would add to what Carlos said?
Yes, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, we are speaking the same language, because, of course, I mean, I agree with what Carlos said. Live or in-person events can be handled in various ways. Of course, if the interpretation service is going to be provided in the traditional manner, you should consider the location of interpreting booths, or provide interpreters with video screens where they can see both the speakers and the presentations that are being shown. And of course, with the emergence of remote simultaneous interpreting, interpreters can also be located outside the room in a hub, or even work from home. So if the customer is providing the AV infrastructure, you need to ensure that the audio and video quality is top-notch. And if you are relying on third parties for that, ensure that they understand the importance of a good AV signal to relay to the interpreters. And of course, in that sense, if you're working with remote interpreters, a wired Ethernet broadband connection to the internet is also essential. So that's what I can add to what Carlos said.
Thank you. One question that came into me here from our audience. Tell me about what I'm going off script a little here, guys, but just as a follow-on to what we just talked about, with any good live event, there's usually some amount of rehearsal that takes place. So what kind of preparation do you provide interpreters, as opposed to just showing up on the day of? What do you provide them information or background about the event, the company, the audience? What goes into preparing the interpreters for the day of the event? Marcos, I'll start with you.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's very important to know the subject of the event itself, to ask the customer to provide you with the presentations in advance. This is very difficult because many speakers don't want to share the presentations, even if you sign an NDA or whatever, they don't want to share the presentations in advance. But it's very important to have that documentation ready for the interpreters in advance, so so they can prepare properly the interpreting job that they have to do. So that's one special point. And of course, I mean, if they're going to work on site, they need to be acquainted with the interpreting console. That's not difficult with Williams AV IC2 interpreter console. It's very easy to use. And if they're going to be working remotely, they need to know how the remote simultaneous interpreting solution works, actually, the remote virtual interpreting console works.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anything else to add on that one, Carlos?
Yeah, I think I'm speaking inside my head when I hear Marcos speaking, because of course the same way, it's not only now because this has been traditionally hard for simultaneous interpretation companies to get the materials on, in advance. So for more than one reason, mainly because speakers or companies don't want to give away the information beforehand. Sometimes it's very confidential, so they don't want to share it at all. They just want to provide it on site. In the interpreters, sometimes some clients, unfortunately, not fortunately not all of them, but some clients say, oh, but they're professional interpreters, right? I mean, what else what do they need the information in beforehand? One thing that I noticed about Marcos, and we can share, is that his company and our company, we share this thing that it's owned. My business partner and I are simultaneous interpreters as well, and Marcos is as well. So knowing the industry, knowing of course the trade, helps tremendously. Of course, because you know exactly what interpreters need, and I guess it makes it a lot easier to provide them with good services as well. So the remote events definitely have a little bit different needs, because of course the big thing is that you need to be more involved with the technical aspect of what the interpreter is using: internet, electricity, lighting, audio, microphone, the way they handle the microphone open and closing, just muting, unmuting, or opening the camera or not opening the camera as a simultaneous interpretation event. Those things are important, because a lot of times even clients, they believe, okay, so I don't see the interpreter on the screen, what's going on? No, it's simultaneous interpretation doesn't really need the interpreter to be facing like a VRI, like a patient versus or a sign language interpreter. Those things are also essential for them to be aware of, and of course the interpreter needs, like I said before, a lot more hand holding to make sure that he or she has what they need and everything is safe, whether they're working at home or any other location different than the venue.
Yeah, thank you. You made a perfect segue into the next question. So well done there. We started with live events, but I think the pandemic certainly forced us all into more virtual meetings during that time. I know I probably participated in 10 times as many virtual meetings as I did in-person meetings during that time. So it certainly created a shift for or an appetite or an acceptance for hybrid and or fully remote meetings. Carlos, you already spoke about some of the things, the factors you have to think about. So I'll direct this one to you, Marcos. When you coach clients who are contemplating doing either a hybrid or a fully remote event, what do you coach them on? How do you bring them into that world and have them consider some of the factors that Carlos just talked about?
Yes, of course. I mean, one of the things, if you're hosting a hybrid event, one of the most important things is to advise them on the best video conferencing platform available for this purpose. Mm-hmm. Even though most platforms offer interpretation systems, not all platforms are as user-friendly for end users or for integrators. For instance, we have developed our own video conferencing platform to ensure the best experience both for customers and interpreters. But it's something very, very important to focus on, to choose the right video conferencing platform in order to integrate the hybrid events. That would be my most important point.
Yep. So, Carlos, for you, do you have a preferred platform? Have you developed your own? What advice would you give to an AV integrator that's listening in today about if they don't have their own platform, either the benefits of using a purpose-built platform, or do you have a preference as to what platform out there works best that is kind of universally available?
Yeah, we have not developed our own platform, and even though we can work with any of the audio and video platforms, of course there are some preferred ones, and I totally agree with Marcos. There's some of them that are completely not user-friendly, and I don't know if one of the things we have used the most is amazing, but it's Zoom. So pretty much what we're using now. It's even though it did not start the way it is now, but they come a long way. They have like pretty much they have gotten a lot closer to the actual physical simultaneous interpretation, like inside a booth. So I want to say, of course, give or take a couple of details, but it has been pretty reliable, and that's one of the things that they do have, and we like it a lot. But as far as working with that, the most important thing, of course, is being able to know exactly all the settings, how to manipulate, like I said before, how to open or close either mics or cameras, and also having the right tools. Like Marcos said, that of course they developed their own platform. One of the things we developed was pretty much a proprietary setup using Digi-Wave. So like you are listening to me and we are talking right now, I continue to speak, and you can hear what I'm doing now. I am walking. This is my home. I'm walking all the way to the back of my my family room. I don't know if you see me.
We do.
Okay. And have you heard any change in my voice?
Nope, it's been clear.
That is possible because of the Digi-Wave, what I'm using here. So we have our proprietary setup that we use to connect two locations, and it doesn't matter the amount of participants. You can use one of these instead of each person having to connect with a laptop or with a smart device or anything like that. So, and this is one of the things that we have been fortunate to have developed, and it has helped us a lot to help clients in this case, because of course that allows them to be more flexible, and this also allowed us to not only concentrate in the simultaneous interpretation like before, but also with pure audio services. So even when the language interpretation is not required, we can provide the connection of audio with something like this. We have had court clients as well, a lot of clients, schools, to provide like hybrid education, hybrid classrooms, and that all has been possible because of the Digi-Wave, the Williams Sound Digi-Wave.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We've talked a little bit about some of the challenges that go into preparing for these hybrid or the remote events. You talked about the importance of everybody having a strong bandwidth connection, picking the right video conferencing platform. What other things that might come into play, either human factors or equipment factors that should be considered in order to host this kind of an event? Marcos, I'll go to you on this one.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe, I don't know, probably it sounds familiar to you, but ensuring that remote participants use a proper headset or microphone and having a test session beforehand to check audio and camera remains one of the biggest challenges in this business. I don't know if Carlos has the same experience, but it's really difficult to get the proper audio coming from remote participants always.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And you know what the most common, Marcos? I'm pretty sure you have heard it 100 times. Oh, why are the interpreters so finicky about listening? I hear the presenter well when he or she is not using a headset, because they have like too much acoustics, because they have the computer, they don't have a headset like Marcos or I'm using, and of course that makes it a lot more difficult, because all the sound in the area gets in the way. And it's so difficult, not only because of sometimes a lot of times, most of the times, the built-in microphone on the computers are not the best. It's not the best option.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the people, and especially remote participants, really need to be aware of the fact that if they want to have their message transmitted to the audience, and that message needs to be transmitted using interpreters, they need to be able to provide the best audio possible to those interpreters, because those are the ones who are going to transmit your message to the audience.
That's right.
Yeah. So on this focus of having the right gear and understand here how important it is, because that becomes a challenge point for all of this. And I'm not looking for any kind of a plug here for Williams, but when you do these events, what brands of headsets, what do you look for in a headset, or what do you recommend in terms of, here's the headset mics or the cameras that you would like to see to know that you're going to get the quality audio and video you're looking for? So Marcos, you're nodding. I'll go to you first, and then go to Carlos. But again, just what do you advise, or what would you advise any of those listening today to look for in their headset, or particular brands that you really like?
Yes, I mean, very, very important, very important. If you take a look at the current standards, international standards in place for simultaneous interpreting, you'll see that the recommendation is to have equipment that provides the following frequency range from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz to 20 kilohertz. That's the audio range that the human ear can perceive. And it's very important for certain languages to be able to provide interpreters with the high part of the frequency range from 50 kilohertz to 20 kilohertz. Then we have what we call high sibilance languages, which is especially the Eastern European languages, which use high pitch sounds, which are very, very important for interpreters to detect. So it's very important to have headsets and microphones that get that audio range, that frequency range over to the interpreters as faithful as possible. And we are using the IC2 console, which is a fantastic piece of equipment, really, really wonderful, because it's not digital, it's analog, and that means that the audio is not compressed. This is one of the main problems that interpreters face nowadays. Most audios, even using physical hardware interpreter consoles, they provide compressed audios to the interpreters, and they always complain about that. So for us, the use of Williams AV, Digi-Wave, and IC2 consoles, I mean, that's wonderful, because we make sure that we are providing our interpreters with the best audio possible.
Right. How about on the video side, Carlos? Maybe I'll come to you. You talked about the importance of having the right videos and cameras there. Any particular brands that you look for, or specifications to support the video portion of a hybrid, right? We full disclosure here, right? Just before we were starting, we were still playing with lighting to try and make it look right. You guys look great. I needed a little help, but talk about the video side of what you guide people to do, or what any of the people listening in today should consider when picking the right video cameras.
Well, yeah. Before actually answering your question about the video, I must say that as far as headsets, because I also have my opinion on that, it's funny because one of the best headsets, microphone headsets that is in the market. It's the Williams, and and this is not because you're here and we're talking about Williams products, but it's really the either the 058 or the 158, which is the same headset, but it's just either one or two plugs. But anyway, for the IC2, like Marcos said, is amazing. The sound that goes in, I mean, the one that goes in and goes out both ways. However, sometimes it comes to the interpreter's preference about how they feel about that, because these are like studio monitor headsets. So sometimes they want the lighter ones, like the one I'm using, or they have like the one that is with one ear, or the 044 or something like that. That is usually what they also go for when it comes to lighter headsets, because they say, oh no, it's too big for me. But going back to your question about video, of course, video, it's have two main areas. One is whenever you have a big event with the full production and like a big stage. Of course, they have like a cameraman. They have like the best cameras on site, just like TV quality and TV pretty much level. But if it's something smaller, like a small to medium size events, we just use PTZ cameras, which they do a great job. And depending on the like pretty much we just use Logitech cameras whenever we have smaller events, and we do handle the video part with those PTZ cameras. Of course, that is in addition to the setup that I showed you a little while ago. And we can share both in and out audio and video. So of course, for the interpreters to see, and for remote participants to see what's going on in the room, the same way as they can hear clearly what's going on in the room.
Yes, sir.
If I may jump in just to add something to that, what Carlos just said, lip sync is very important. So you have to make sure when you combine video and audio, you have to make sure that what interpreters get, and also what the audience gets, is video with lip synchronization. That's very important.
Yep.
Yes.
And how do you make sure you do that? If things are not in sync, how do you go about correcting that?
Well, that's then when you can use production programs. I mean, for instance, we use a production software that's called vMix in order to be able to adapt the speed or the latency difference between the audio and the video, so to make sure that it's completely lip sync.
Yep. Got it. And do you use similar setups in terms of equipment for hybrid versus in-person events, or do you generally use the same equipment with just some configuration differences?
It's different. I would say very different, because of course when it comes to remote, when we have a hybrid event, at least in our company, in our team, we call it hybrid if at least one person, whether is interpreter, participant, or presenter, it's away from the room. So that's, of course, the combination, it varies depending on what the requirements are. But if that applies, of course, if it's a hybrid event, we definitely need to include of course, use of laptops, microphones, the specific equipment and setup to provide that two-way communication between the two locations. But it's basically it's very, very different, but mainly the use of computers and of course internet, which is not required when it's a live event, like in-person event.
Got it. Anything to add there, Marcos?
Yes, I mean there's a difference between in-person events or just in-person events and hybrid events. But of course, I mean what we are doing right now is 99%, no, 95% of what we are doing right now are hybrid events in the sense that interpreters are not located in the same place. They are working either from our hub or from home. So that means that we have to integrate that. I mean, people on site are not going to notice anything. They're not going to say that if the interpreters are there or not there. It's not going to matter for them. But we need to integrate that, and that's where we use the Digi-Wave technology and the IC2 consoles in order to integrate everything fully. So we have our video conferencing platform in order to send the live video and audio to the interpreters, not only to the interpreters, but also to remote participants if there are any. And we send the audio back, and we integrate the audio back using Williams AV technology with Digi-Wave in order to provide the on-site participants with the interpreting channels using the Digi-Wave receivers. And we also have a mobile app for large events where the participant or the customer doesn't want to spend too much money on renting the interpretation receivers. So they have a combination, probably they will have a combination of Digi-Wave receivers and mobile app users in order to receive and to listen to the interpreting channels.
Yeah. Interesting point that 95% of your events are at least hybrid or fully remote. What's that mix look like for Universe, Carlos? What's the mix of what you do in live events versus either fully hybrid or remote?
It's about, I want to say 50-50 now, because we do a lot of, we still do a lot of in-person events, but sometimes it varies because there are some trends. We have noticed that there are trends depending on, of course, everything now is either before the pandemic or after the pandemic. AP and, BP and AP,
Right.
So but right after, of course, everything was remote, and that use has decreased a little bit in as far as the hybrid events, but came here to stay, basically. So, and sometimes we see anywhere between like 50-50 or 60-40, sometimes being 60 as the hybrid, but because it's a lot. The important thing is the clients realize that they can actually expand their offerings to, for people who in the past were just not able to attend the event. And now they do. They can just stay home if they, for any reason, they cannot come. They cannot attend the event. They can be watching and listening and participating from home. So that's a big plus. That's a big, big detail that they can actually take advantage whenever they have their events and prepare and offer it and advertise, as well as like any other points or any other types of setups. For example, one of the things we do a lot is the silent PA events. So there's some people call it silent events, silent PA, silent conference, silent seminar, silent anything. Some people, one time we even said, they even call it, do you offer silent disco? And said, no, we don't. And because of course, this silent disco, for the one who are not familiar with, is very, very trendy now, and it started in Asia, but they were not talking about the actual silent disco. They were talking about a silent event, but in which they have a larger, a huge room in which they share the same space. And of course, they cannot have multiple PA systems. We do this with Digi-Wave, same way. So because of the many channels. So it's a lot of flow of how the interpretation clients want their events. So it's like I said, not right now, it fluctuates between the 50-50 and 60-40, something like that.
Just a quick comment on that. I mean, the European market is maybe a bit different from the American market in the sense of we provide a lot of multilingual events, and talking about multilingual, it's from 5 to 15 languages, different languages. So if you have to bring in 30 interpreters to one location, and you can avoid that by having those interpreters work from our hub or from home, that means a big difference in pricing.
Excellent. Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense. Makes sense. So you made a nice transition there. We've talked mostly about the equipment, the technical challenges, what to look for in selecting the right equipment, some of the gotchas and getting it implemented. Let's talk about the interpreter a little bit more here. You know, for those again on the line, what do these interpreters need from the person managing all the AV aspects and getting the right equipment together? Talk about what are maybe the top 3 to 5 things an interpreter might need from the AV team who's making all the equipment work in order for them to be comfortable and for them to perform well in their task. So Carlos, I'll go to you first.
Okay, it all depends. It depends if you're talking about a live event, an in-person event, or a hybrid event.
If you do more live, let's start with live events, and then maybe Marcos, since you're more remote, I'll come to you for the remote. So Carlos, live events. What's
okay? So like I said before, a good view, as well as, of course, good view. I mean, good audio, good video. That's so primarily, of course, what they need the most is to have clear, good audio signal on their headsets. And of course, you handle that with the AV team, making sure that you get a proper signal and all that. But at the same time, they need to have a good visual access to the room, to screens, to the podium, stage, presenters. In there, as long as the room permits it, they need to be placed in a way that they can see freely and clearly what the action is. If for any reason they cannot be in the same room, or they're going to be blocked or partially blocked, like Marcos mentioned a little while ago, you need to provide them with monitors, screen monitors, to make sure that they see what's going on the same way as if they were like 70 feet away from the stage. So that would be, of course, one of the main things. But also, a lot of times, making sure that they know. One of the things we tell them is that our team or our tech is going to be, look right here. So if you wave, we see you. In case you need anything, let us know. You wave or you raise your hand, and we will be right there at the booth. A lot of interpreters. It all depends on the interpreters, but a lot of interpreters are expecting us to bring them water all the time. We do that as naturally anyway, just to make sure that they are comfortable and of course that they have proper lighting inside the booth. Of course, the quality of the booth it's essential. In the same way as using Williams AV, we use the professionally made booths just to make sure that they're comfortable and everything is like a good view from their windows of the screen. But also it's you as a tech make sure that whatever happens, if there's no if the font of the slides is too small, or the lighting of that screen is too low, you provide them, of course, with what they need, and you actually act. That's what you're supposed to do as a tech, the liaison between the booth and the client or the presenter. Maybe the presenter is speaking like way too fast, and then as much as possible, sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not, you try to see if the presenter can slow down a little bit. But I'm pretty sure Marcos is going to mention about the remote, but talking about the differences of having a hybrid event, it's so different, making sure that everything is fine from the interpreter's perspective, making sure that they have good internet, that they have power, that they don't have like and sometimes we go up to the point of telling them you don't have any coffee or water right next to your computer, right? So
right,
because that has happened before.
excellent. Marcos, any other dynamics relative to doing a hybrid or a remote event that you'd add?
Well, actually, I think Carlos mentioned almost everything that we need, even because at the end of the day, you need the same thing, both for live in-person events and hybrid events. You need to provide interpreters with exactly the same things: good audio and video, which has been already discussed. There's one thing that I want to add, and if you are providing the interpreter console or the interpreting system, which can be virtual, you have to provide interpreters with a hearing protection system with peak blocking, which is very, very important. I mean, you cannot control everything that happens on the audio side during an event, and maybe sometimes you can get feedback. And if you need to be able to control that feedback or to avoid that feedback getting to the interpreters, because that can have serious consequences for the interpreters. So that's something that I wanted to add. So to provide interpreters with hearing protection. And something else I wanted to mention is that, of course, if they are working remotely, if you're working from an interpreter hub, which is our case in most examples, the interpreting booths are properly insulated, sound insulated, which is also very important. They have ventilation, they have airco, they have everything that interpreters need to feel comfortable while working. But if they're working from home, you need to check that they're working in a closed room. That means that you're not going to hear a dog barking or any other, or a baby crying, or the doorbell ringing. I don't know, things like that. You have to be able to prevent that from happening. And of course, testing with the interpreters beforehand in advance that their sound is okay, that they receive the sound correctly, and that the sound that they provide you is also good enough to provide the service.
So piggybacking on one thing from Carlos, and then I'll come back to you, Carlos. Piggybacking on one thing, he made a great point about during those live events that the interpreter has the ability to put their hand up if they have any kind of technical challenges at all. Maybe not just for water, but for technical challenges, so that you've got somebody on your team right there to assist with those and minimize any disruption. How do you handle the same thing in a remote environment, Marcos?
Oh yes, more or less the same way. I mean, if they are working on our virtual interpreting console, we have visual contact with the interpreter. So the technical staff on our side is always seeing the interpreters on screen, and the interpreters are always seeing the technical stuff on their screens. So that's very important to have that visual contact. They have a hands up function as well. So if they need assistance, they just raise their hands on the virtual interpreting console. So the technician can look at their problem right away. And they can communicate directly with the technician without interfering with the event. So this is very important, to have visual and voice communication with the technical staff, and that's something that you need to provide in hybrid events. Excellent.
Carlos, what were you going to add?
Okay, well, one crucial, very important detail is for whoever is organizing the event, whether it's the end client or a meeting planner or a production company, anything like that. It's very important for them to allocate some time to do a test with interpreters, because if you just assign interpreters and you just have the schedule for, okay, here's where the event date and times are going to be, and not actually considering any type of test it is something that needs to be considered, needs to be even budgeted, because of course, being able to test with each and every one of the interpreters is crucial in making sure that everything, and of course, needless to say, you have to make sure that every interpreter is using everything the same way exactly as they are going to use during the event. Same laptop, same microphone, same internet, same chair, same everything. And that's something that we always stress, making sure that they have everything the same. And of course, I didn't know, the thing is, I brought another laptop and I didn't know it doesn't have the settings, or it's not compatible, or it doesn't have the update, or same way, making sure that if you use a audio video platform, you need to make sure beforehand that that platform, it's updated as well, because you don't want to have the surprise that your settings are not updated and then you're like stuck sometimes.
Excellent. Well, looking at the clock here, we're about 10 minutes to the hour. I know that Sydney from our marketing team and Haley are on and looking for any questions from the audience. So Haley or Sydney, are there any questions that have been submitted through the chat that we should field?
We do have a few, so great webinar so far, guys. First question. So are you using any AI technology to provide language services for events?
Marcos, why don't you take that one first?
Yes, well, we are starting that, and actually we are starting offering AI simultaneous interpreting, which is of course a low-cost proposition to some clients who cannot afford to invest a lot of money in simultaneous interpreting. Of course, interpreters are expensive. That's something we have to, it's not going to change. But if you have minority languages, maybe for just 1 or 2 participants, and you don't want to invest in an interpreting team for just 1 or 2 participants, we can offer you AI-driven simultaneous interpreting, which is, of course, and we always say that it's not the same. It's not going to be the same for a long time, I believe. But it's a solution that we already can offer. What we also do is to provide AI-driven aids to interpreters. That means that the interpreters can see the live transcription of what is being said, so close live captioning of what is being said in the source language. We can even provide them with live translation, AI-driven translation of what is being said into their own language, into the language that they have to interpret into, so that they can focus on the language production without having to look up any terminology or figures or names, because they are seeing those on screen. So this is something that increases the productivity of interpreters, allows them to work longer times, and reduces the need of having, for most events that are less than 2 hours, reduces the needs to have 2 interpreters per language pair. So this is something that is really starting to be very, very important in the interpreting scene.
Carlos, you looked eager to answer that one as well.
Yeah. So like Marco said, it's not the same. And precisely for that is that the reason that we have not used AI yet. And we know that, of course, AI technology has been advancing for a while now. But so far, our clients and our meeting planners, or whether it's the end client or some other interpretation agencies and production companies, which we work with a lot, they call us, and it's so far. What can I tell you? It's not the same amount of accuracy that AI can deliver, the same way as the human brain. So, and that is actually one of the things, and we are open to use, of course, in the advancement and the developing of AI, when that gets to a point that, okay, this is, actually, yeah, it is good, is good enough for us. But the AI content, of course, the delivery is not the same, and for that reason we haven't used it.
Good. Haley, do we have time for one more quick one?
Yes, absolutely. So let's find a great one for you. There's quite a few questions. Just so you know, we will send this to the Williams team, and they will be able to answer this for everybody who we missed. Here's one. So do freelance interpreters rent a booth in your hub for a daily rate or hourly rate, or is it just for your own events or interpreters?
Well, I guess that one's for me. Yes, I mean, no, we're open for all types of setups. I mean, if an interpreter or a client already has its own interpreter team and they want to make use of our interpreting hubs, there's no problem. We can rent it out for a daily. Well, we have actually a half-day rate, full day rate, and extra hour rate. So it's more or less the same as the interpreting rate system that we apply for interpreters going out to live events. No, I mean, we are open to use our interpreting hub with everyone that needs it.
How about your team, Carlos?
Oh, it's as far as booths, of course, we do not have a hub, but we can just, of course, work with the client's needs. If whether this client is like I said before, an end user or a production company, another interpretation company that doesn't have the equipment, or an interpreter, we are ready, and of course we can offer not only the interpretation receivers and transmission systems, but also the booths. We just adapt to whatever it is. Sometimes we coordinate and we offer the whole service, including interpreters, equipment, and coordination, or sometimes just the equipment, including booths. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, gentlemen. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to all of the questions. We tried to stage this in a way that we hit the most common ones, but we'll get the list of questions from Haley and do our best to respond to those. I'm going to share just real quick some contact information. So thanks to both Carlos and Marcos for your time today and your expertise and educating all of us. You can see some contact information on the screen for both of these fine gentlemen, and feel free to tap into them for their expertise. And then I'd encourage you, if you have interpretation needs, whether it's live or hybrid, remote, these are two of the best that we've seen, and it's our pleasure to call them customers. So please reach out to them for anything. Our marketing staff is always working hard to try and create content that helps move all of us forward in the AV industry. So they've created a guide that you can download using the QR code on the screen to download and learn more about assistive listening interpretation solutions. So please take advantage of that free resource as well. Marcos and Carlos, thank you, sir. Thank you for both for participating, and I'll bounce it back to Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony.
You're welcome.
Yeah, guys, we can't thank you enough. Tony, it's very well staged. Nothing speaks better than use cases, and this is really a good one. If we try to do one thing with these webinars, is trying to promote meaningful conversation that can spark an idea, and you've certainly done that. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Our global business models demand that we take interpretation and translation seriously. So we would ask the audience to reach out. This is a really big conversation, and it's just going to become bigger. For those in the audience that don't know anything about PS&I, you can go to the PS&I website at psni.org, fill in a little bit of your information about yourself, and someone will reach out to you. It's always a challenge when you find yourself in a position to do a global deployment opportunity, especially when you have multilingual scenarios to deal with. So we want to help you with that. For our members that are on the call today or the meeting today, our program with Williams AV is on the member portal, and all of the contact information that you'll need. If you have any questions other than that, you can always reach out to me at troberts@psni.org, and I'll guide you in the right direction. Gentlemen, I can't thank you again for being with us today. Our next scheduled webinar will take place November 8th at 1 p.m. Central Time with Draper, and it'll be a discussion on LED technologies and mounting structures. With that, from Haley Klein and Tom Roberts, we thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care.